Hello everyone, you're listening to the Leaders in Payments and Fintech podcast, brought to you by Edgar, Dunn Company, the global payments and fintech consultancy firm. Coming from the city of Paris, today I am your host, Toussaint, director in our Paris office. In this series, in this podcast, we are meeting with leaders and practitioners from across the industry to find out what it takes to bridge the gap between strategy and execution. Our central question is how can we commercialize and bring the benefits of ever deeper new technologies to market in what continues to be a highly regulated industry. If you enjoy these interviews, please subscribe to Apple, Spotify, or your preferred podcast platform of choice. We're very privileged today because we have the honor of having Jacques-Olivier Schatz, CEO of Xpollens. So, Jacques-Olivier, may I ask you first to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Jacques-Olivier Schatz, as you just said, I am the CEO of Xpollens, and Xpollens is a banking as a service company based in Paris as well, providing many different features for people who want to have features in payments.
Perfect. So, Jacques-Olivier, we recently met in Amsterdam during Monet 2020. During this conference, embedded payments seem to be everywhere, but depending on who you talk to, it didn't always mean the same thing, right? So, from your perspective at Xpollens, how do you define embedded payments and what's your take at Xpollens regarding embedded payments?
It's all about integrating payment functionalities like cards, wire transfer, KYC or whatever directly into a non-financial actor or workflow at the right time and at the right place. Beyond tech, it's a shift in ownership of the payment experience from payment institution to platform or softwares. And our goal in Xpollens is to make this integration completely seamless, secure, and compliant by design. One short example is to release invoice payment directly into an accounting tool and not having to go to connect to your bank accounts.
So in effect, the embedding part is a key enablers, right, for users, corporates, SMEs, to use the same systems and have the payment of the financial part completely integrated. From a perspective at Edgar Company, because we're working actively in this field, we see that embedded payments are increasingly seen as a strategic lever by many in the industry. Why is that from your perspective?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We feel the same. First, modularity. Company needs to integrate, as I just explained previously, exactly what they need, when they need it regarding payment in order to having a process completely automated, integrated within the existing tools for more efficiency, for a much better user experience, and for real-time capability with built-in compliance, KYC, fraud, anti-money laundering, for safer scale and not just a faster scale for our customers. It's not just only about technology, it's about unlocking completely new business model, integrating payments into new experiences.
Can you be a bit more specific when you mean new business models? Like maybe share some of what you're working on at Xpollens to highlight why it has become important?
Of course. Let's take a few examples. On the travel in payment in travel, you can, for example, generate virtual cards in order to be able, when your plane is late, let's take this example, generate a virtual card directly into the user app in order for him to be able to pay his taxi, to be able to pay for his hotel. Or if your flight is delayed, you can use our API in order to send an instant payment directly from the insurance to the traveler to say, okay, your plane was 1.5 hours late. here are your, 100 euros from your insurance. You can also integrate payments directly into platform marketplaces in order to have the capability to move funds in real time and automate the commission flows and automate the fund distribution. You also have two other examples, one in crypto assets, okay? And it's something that is completely new. If you want to embed wallets and the capability to have some features such as the capability to pay by card using a virtual card that you generate into the wallet, with your crypto assets, you can now use our tools to instantly pay using your crypto assets by transforming them through a Mika company, transforming them into euros and being able to pay wherever you want in the world. Using a Visa card, for example. And also on the gambling part, we are working with a gambling company who is using our APIs in order to 24/7 being capable of sending instant payment, instant transfer directly into the bank account of users. So the user experience is just great because your team won and you received 100 or whatever your bet was. It's instantly. So those are completely new models embedding payments directly where the end user is using it.
Yeah. So in a sense, what you're saying through the different use cases that you've shared, be it travel, be it insurance, be it platform and marketplaces, on both B2C and B2B, crypto, it's really embedding the payments so it can be within, as you mentioned, the user experience and able to leverage payments either to pay or receive payments and facilitate the customer experience. One thing which is always very important, and you mentioned to a certain degree, is regulations. It's often perceived by some actors as like a hurdle. How do you handle it at Xpollens, and how do you work with your partners and customers to make sure that compliance regulation is part of embedded payments and can be seen to a certain degree as an enabler and not as a hurdle?
First, it's not a hurdle when its compliance is built in from day one in your system, in your core banking system. At Xpollens, it's part of our DNA. Since we are also part of the BPC group. So compliance is very important for us. And it's also what we are bringing to our partners. They are not payment specialists or compliance specialists. We are the one who will carry the expertise, who will bring them the capability to integrate payments without having to take care of compliance of all the regulations. Of course, since they are our agents, they need to respect some rules, but we will be here to guide them and to make it very easy to integrate our APIs and to make the compliance not being a blocker, but more being an enabler on this part. For example, compliance will also bring new opportunity from my point of view. Let's take one example, e-invoicing. There is a new regulation in France, but also in other countries in Europe, where corporates will have to process electronic invoices. So it will create an opportunity to embed payments to facilitate the payments directly into your accountants' softwares or accountant tools, and not having to go to your bank account to make payments. So those kind of new businesses will grow from my point of view, and that's also thanks to regulation.
Yeah, thanks. And we all know that compliance sometimes can be complex, but you can also turn it in a way to make people in the ecosystem feel more secure, because it allows them to make sure that they're receiving or they're paying the right stakeholders. And as you mentioned, in B2B payments, the invoicing regulation, it could be in France, but also in other European countries, Germany, Italy, or Spain. All the companies, be it SMEs and corporates, will have to process invoices electronically. And as you mentioned, this is part of the regulation that if you take a step back as companies, they can like go one step further and embed payments to facilitate the payments, so making payments, but also receiving payments and ensuring that the processes are automated, digital, and removing a lot of the pain points related to manual processes. And it's part of what you're also working at Xpollens, Jacques-Olivier.
Absolutely. And also absolutely secured. That's also very important for us.
Yeah, exactly, because you stay within the same system, so you don't need to log on in another system, and you limit the risk as well. And this part in terms of security, cybersecurity, is definitely important. That brings us to another part of a podcast today. You're often seen in actual podcasts, but a news article, an opposition between bank and fintech, like who is going to win. To a certain degree, we may consider that is an old story. The narrative used to be banks versus fintech, but we may have started like an era of competition. Competition may be some part of the value chain, cooperation on some others. What's your take on it?
Well, I fully agree. Today, we definitively see more complementarity between banks and fintechs. First, because we are a fintech inside a bank, so we are a good example of not being in competition, but being fintech can bring innovation and agility. Banks will bring compliance, robustness, structure. This is very important in order to have end customers to be trustful into that kind of systems. They want both innovation and security or business. Embedded payment only work if those two worlds build together, we co-build those systems. And our rule at Xpollens is to be the bridge between and the combination between agility, trust, and expertise in that payment field. We are the proof that agility and compliance can go hand in hand.
Yeah, and I like your aspect, because you highlighted that you're a fintech within a bank. From a perspective, the fintechs indeed are much more agile, but also have a modular approach. So sometimes the banks may not have the right gear, right tools to do the compliance, to be able to issue a virtual card, virtual IBANs, or to address specific use cases. And by taking the specific value proposition with a modular approach of some fintech, they can complement what they're trying to achieve, to embed payments, to embed finance, and offer the relevant services to the clients. Is it some of the things as well that you're working on?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. And when we talked about embedded payments, as mentioned, this was a topic much discussed at Money 20 in Amsterdam this year. There was also some discussion about like what will the future be, and it's always a bit more difficult to predict, because as the embedded payments market is developing, you sometimes have some surprises, or you can't predict exactly what the industry will move on. So I wanted to ask you, if you had a crystal ball, how would you expect embedded payments to evolve in the next 2-3 years?
Well, unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball, but well, let's try. Well, I really believe that within a few years, embedded payment will be embedded almost everywhere. It's from a user experience perspective. Payment should be something that will be both secure and very easy to do. And each app, each software that needs payment will have it directly embedded from my point of view, thanks to API. And maybe also within 2-3 years, I think we could have also AI agents. AI was also a big part of discussions at Money 2020. AI agents will also need to embed payment methods such as virtual cards in order to be able to pay in behalf of the person who is asking the AI. Let's take an example. If you ask an AI agent to say, book me a good Italian restaurant at 1:30, then probably the AI agent will go on the internet, will find the correct restaurant, and the restaurant will ask a credit card in order to end the booking of the table. And so thanks to our API, you can generate that virtual card. You can only put the amount of, I don't know if it's 20 euro, you will put 20 euro on this card and only 20 euros, and you will let your AI agent pay for you. So you know that you will only transfer the correct amount, so it will be safe. And on the other hand, AI will be able to also do the payment for you. So it's going to be in the future to find the correct balance between the capability for AI to pay on behalf of the one who is asking the AI agent and the security of. But for me, that's part of the future.
And I fully agree with you. The embedded payments, and you talk about AI agent, like the agentic commerce, which was much discussed, as you rightly said so, during Money 2020, is to a certain degree part of the simplification of the purchase process. You make it easier for the user to look and select for the goods and services that you're looking for, and this we can do today. But then after this is really the integration of payments and to be embedded in the search and the purchase process that makes it even more valuable. And with the start of potentially of new era, if we're critical, we're in an industry where there's always needs to have like some buzzword and others. That being said, if we take a step back, every single initiative that was also pushed or facilitated by the whole ecosystem and that will make the purchase process easier is more likely to succeed than an initiative by a single actor, be it a scheme, an issuer, a merchant. And as we're developing like a new societal changes with the advent of AI agents, bots, and others, we're about to potentially see a change in the way we access information, we look for information, and we transact, similar to a certain degree how it was the beginning of the e-commerce in the years 2000. This will mean that all the actors in the value chain, be it on the companies, merchants, will need to adapt, potentially to open their stock, inventory, services to make sure that agents can access it. But also from a payment perspective, how you facilitate this part in terms of embedded payments related to consent, authorization, make sure that you have all the processes around disputes to make sure that your end-to-end transactions is secure and is legit to avoid any fraud and to facilitate the purchase process. And anything you want to add above and beyond that, Jacques-Olivier?
No, I think that's a good. For me, the last part I want to add on that is the capability to find the right responsibility between AI agent and all the different actors in the global chain. But that's for me where stands the last problem. Who will be responsible if the payment is not done at the correct person? You tell us about fraud. So those are the things that needs to be clearly defined. But after that, generating virtual cards, the capability to automate payments through secured way thanks to API is something that is already existing. So that's the future is very close today.
Yeah, no, fully agree. And I think this part, because if you make a comparison in an e-commerce transaction, you have like a strong authentication, so 3D secure, that makes, this is a protocol defined by the industry, whereby if you contest, you can have the proof of the purchase. So something similar needs to be defined also for agentic commerce, so that you can check the identity of people and also make sure that the transaction is legit according to the standard of the industry. So, Jacques-Olivier, if listeners to this podcast have to remember one thing from an episode, what should it be?
Well, embedded payment isn't just a trend. It's a lever for durable growth for our partners. And doing it right means building with compliance, speed, and purpose from day one. That's where Xpollens stands, making embedded payments long-term and strategic assets.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Jacques-Olivier, for sharing your perspectives. We had like a really good discussion. Thank you all for your listening to today's podcast, brought to you by Edgar, Dunn Company. Please subscribe to Apple, Spotify, or your preferred podcast platform of choice if you want to hear more. We're now in our third year of this series of talking with leaders in payments and fintech. We're always open to suggestions and comments. Please contact the EDC team via our website, www.edgardunn.com, and click on the Connect with Us button on the homepage. Thank you for listening, and I wish you all a nice day. Bye-bye.